I'm talking about the various human rights courts in regional human rights courts. I'm talking about the Inter-American system, the European and African system, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, the European Court of Human Rights, and the African People's Human Rights. In the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, I talked in the 4 languages of the organization, English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish, on the subject of human recommended cases there. So I will do the same here in the European system. Now, the European Court of Human Rights is actually the oldest of the 3. It was founded in 1953, after the signing of the European Convention on Human Rights. So I'm doing this video in English and French on the case of recommendations. First, I will have to pick my own native country, unfortunately, Russia, in Chechnya, where the army has been accused of doing just unbelievable things to civilians, torture, kidnappings, disappearances, and so on. And of course, in the situation in Ukraine as well, which I think is pretty obvious for people to see. If anyone who watches CNN or BBC, that attacks on buses, attacks on hospitals, attacks on schools, attacks on basically civilians and civilian objects. Another issue I would talk about is the refugee issue, which is a monumental problem in Europe. Many refugees from across the Mediterranean come to Europe for a reason. Many refugees come for 2 reasons: for political and economic asylum. And of course, the situation with the refugees is a bureaucratic, political, social, economic, and human rights disaster. Some countries, and of course, there's no uniform policy, which is strange because the European Union usually enforces a common foreign relations policy amongst all 28 member states. And it's strange that there is no common unified policy towards refugees. Italy does one thing, Spain does another thing, France does another thing, and Greece does another thing. It's ridiculous. In Greece, of course, these refugees are being held in I'll call it what it is, jails in that country. In Italy, they're being held wherever they can. Spain tries to figure out how to get most of them back to where they came from. And France, you have extreme racism and discrimination between various ethnic and racial groups in that country. So much for the French concepts of liberté, equality, and fraternité. The point is, refugees is another issue that must be solved by the European Court of Human Rights. Another, of course, is the recent Charlie Hebdo case and all the terrorist plotters that exist across the European continent, in Belgium, France, Spain, and Germany in particular. What we need to do, what not just Europe, but many international community needs to come to consensus, is how can we fight terrorism without resorting to terrorist-like tactics ourselves? And one of the ways is to respect the human rights that we all suggested. The idea that you can use torture and disappearances as a way to protect yourself from terrorism is just an absurd, roundabout, circuitous logic that just doesn't make sense. And of course, the famous American philosopher Benjamin Franklin, he was made of many things, but when he said, the people who can trade liberty for security deserve neither. And that's exactly what they're doing here in Europe. The best way to fight terrorism is to still respect a society of multicultural values. Because one of the reasons why these terrorists flourish is because they have this monocultural view of the world. That we're the best, our version of Islam is the best, and God forbid any other versions of Islam or versions of other religions. And it's just insane. Another thing that they should talk about, what the European Union should talk about, is how can I say this? Is the issue of Romas, formerly in derogatory called gypsies, because they had been discriminated across the European continent in also many ways. In Slovakia and Czech Republic, where they're given inferior education relative to the native population. In France and Italy, where they live in slums, which is completely strange for developed countries like France and Italy. So those, I think, are the major issues the European Court of Human Rights should actually enforce.